Welcome to Squad, the leadership and high performance podcast that aims to help you change your game through inspirational stories and insights from some of the most fascinating people around. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Alexandra Chirica, founder of fintech and cyber crime recruitment agency, Tail. Alex, you've been in recruitment for 3.5 years prior to establishing Tail. What was the motivation for establishing your own recruitment agency?
Well, like you mentioned, I wasn't in recruitment long, but last year when COVID hit, I didn't think agencies had the right focus. And that's when we saw mass redundancies happen and everything. And to me, it was more of a period where people needed help more than anything. And I felt like agencies just focused on revenue, and they tightened up KPIs and they were driving sales in a period when they shouldn't have. So ethically, to me, that didn't feel right. And I said, well, screw it. I can do it better. I can focus on what I think is right. And that's when I set up Tail.
So you followed through the sectors you're in now are the sectors that you were working on when you were in Aston Carter and Broadgate. Is that right? So you've taken through that, or have you pivoted slightly?
No, so I graduated 2017, fell into recruitment like pretty much everyone in this industry. And they put me in the compliance and financial crime market. I studied that. I wanted to know what the hell I was talking about. So I did my research on what that actually was. Fell in love with it. And something that I saw happen about 1.5 years ago was fintechs needing to hire in this space. So I thought, okay, let me make this my niche. And I don't really want to move away from it.
So it's an unusual sector, as in it's the one that if you looked across industry sectors in recruitment, one might argue that the cybercrime particularly is rather more niche than others. And you love it. So what is it that you love about it the most?
Just the ridiculous stories. You used to hear some insane stories. I remember I had candidates tell me about situations like through transactions that they saw going on in banking, they managed to uncover dolphin trafficking on the coast of like China or something like that. And I just thought, what the hell? That's absolutely insane that through transactions, you can investigate so deep to see that that's happening. So it kind of also aligns with the fact that it's ethically motivated as well. I mean, these people are literally figuring out where human trafficking is happening, fraudsters. And I'd say that with money launderers, they're like 10 years ahead of us technology-wise. So we are way behind, but these people are getting brought in to at least mitigate that to some extent. So, it doesn't all go to shit.
So what would be, I mean, dolphin trafficking, I don't even think we've got time to go into that, Alex. But I think I might just let my brain work out what that could involve. But what kind of person would you ordinarily find for your clients? What would make like sort of the general demographic of a candidate for you?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on seniority, doesn't it? So what do you mean by that?
Well, if you're in marketing, you might find a marketing manager who is involved in doing design and concept, SEO, email marketing, that kind of thing. So I just wonder what a cybercrime candidate looked like. What kind of individual?
So I took the piss on this because you know how you normally get recruiters posting, oh, I've got an amazing job, or I've got this fantastic opportunity. That is not how I sell to financial crime candidates. Because what attracts a financial crime candidate is if I say, hey guys, I've got a bank that's in a ton of shit with the regulators and they need help. And they're like, oh, yes, love to get my hands in that. So they're sadistic. That's all I can say. They like a challenge and they like to get their hands dirty into discovering all of these things that are happening.
So the way you described it is interesting because as we touched on before we started this podcast, the way that you deliver your messages is actually quite unique. And I think it breaks the mold. And it's really interesting to see how you portray yourself and obviously tailors your agency, but subsequently represent your clients, because that's what you're doing, isn't it? And it's just interesting how you get up on video and the way that you do that. What was the theory behind that and the process behind getting up in the camera and the way that you deliver?
Great question. Well, just to answer the motivating factor behind it first, was last year in May, I was getting a lot of calls from people who were made redundant. Some of them were crying, some of them were like in a ridiculous amount of stress. And I thought, I'm getting so many calls, I need to find a way that I can address a lot of people in one go and add tips that are valuable to them at that moment. And I was already someone who posted on Instagram a shit ton, and I thought it can't be any different if I do it on LinkedIn, just probably don't swear as much. So I started doing it on LinkedIn, and I realized that people were actually getting good value from it. So I started doing it more and more, and now I've bought a camera to make them look better.
And how is it? I am intrigued, genuinely intrigued, to how that is, how that goes down with your clients and also candidates as well, because you're representing both. Because what you're doing, and again, part of the reason why I was attracted to having you on the podcast in the first place, really is quite different and the polar opposite in many regards to how we have, and I say we, us 40-somethings, have been brought up in recruitment since we, like you, fell into it some 20 odd years ago, right? And the prospect, and obviously 20 years ago, you could do half the stuff you're doing anyway, because LinkedIn and Instagram didn't exist. But irrespective of that, you are sort of flying in the face of what is a standard and typical model. How do your clients and candidates feel about it?
Candidates love it. That's the main thing I can say. The candidates always message me saying, oh, this was really useful. I was able to correct my CV in this format or whatever. And when I approach new candidates as well, it's a massive icebreaker, because someone I've never spoken to before has actually seen the videos that I do. So the first thing they start off with saying is, oh, Alex, nice to hear from you. I've actually seen your videos before. And I don't know who does or doesn't see them, because there's passive viewers who don't actively engage with your stuff. And it's a massive icebreaker on that side. With clients as well, I've had some clients wanting to be a part or trying to find a way of how they can be a part of it, because fintech is a sector where they're still quite small, so they need branding. And to have a client ask me to brand them, that's a massive compliment.
Absolutely.
I haven't had any negative feedback, apart from at the beginning when I started, one of my old agencies apparently was laughing at the videos I was doing, and now I'm kind of like this.
That was Alex giving a metaphorical bird there. For those not viewing this, but then again, though, the agencies that you're working for, perhaps they're the ones that have been around, slightly more established, slightly more traditional, shall we use that word to describe those. So here's a question. The videos that you do aren't just videos; they're really quite out there videos for the ones that I've seen, and that must take confidence. What was it that allowed you, as a person, to go, do you know what, I am just going to do that? What gave you the drive? Was it like, well, fuck it, what have I got to lose? Or was it there was like a purpose that drove you to do that?
The purpose is that I'm sick of people having the stereotype that recruiters are shitheads. Because not all of us are, and some of us really do like what we do, and we do want to help people. What gets in the way of that is the leadership from the top, that is simply either driving too many KPIs or, targets that are far too high, that doesn't give the recruiter the time to nourish these relationships. So if I can have any kind of change in that stereotype, I'm going to fucking go to town with it. So I would happily do a recruitment expose on how it works and everything, because it's not as shit as people think. That's the driving factor.
Yeah, you're right. Do you think there's some part of this though, Alex, that is, you're being afforded a bit of a luxury because there's you and one other in your organization, and if you were to scale it, and again, it's a question perhaps that, I'll ask you if you're looking to scale it, maybe you don't know what you're looking to do, but if you were to only get to 10, 20, and beyond that, would you still, and by then, of course, you'd be the boss steering it all, would you let people do what you do? Or do you think there is a limit to what that can be done with the more people that there are?
So I definitely do want to scale it. I don't think I'd want to scale it massively, but let's say maybe 10 to 15 people. I want it to be quite boutique. But what I do want to have are kind of superstars in their own niche who are creative to do their own thing and be themselves in whatever format that works for them. So video works for me. That may not work for my future employee, but maybe writing articles or journalism or blogging is a way for them to express their personality. That's fine. But I completely get what you mean, that it is a luxury to just have myself and my business partner at the moment, but I do not believe for a second that there isn't a different structure to grow organically and ethically. And fair enough, it might be smaller profit margins that you make year on year, but at least you're growing a sustainable business. So that to me questions, okay, what are your values and your motives and in growing this company? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And what's kind of ringing out, Alex, as we go through this, is those words sort of ethically and with purpose are really ingrained in you. And at 25 years old, I don't know whether or not that's sort of unique or not, but having a business without that purpose now, I think is, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but where you're trying to attract, as everybody is now, sort of that the new entrants into our sector and people who haven't, as we've both described, fallen into it. So, you're actually taking up this as a career because you want to. I think those, the way that you adopt that purpose and that ethical standpoint could be, if that's what the business is, really, really important. But for you, what is the metric of purpose and working with ethics?
So for me, what that means is something very simple, but what I feel is the main thing that's forgotten in recruitment. In recruitment, you actually have two sales jobs. You're not just selling to the client, you're selling to the candidate. And that is the selling to the candidate thing that people don't nurture and they don't give a shit about. If you spend more time nurturing the candidate side, everything is a hell of a lot better. So if I can help that candidate, yes, ultimately get a job. But realistically, I'm a small fucking company. I'm not going to place 200 people. But how can I add value to those people regardless? It's by doing these career strategy roadmap things that I'm doing. It's by doing the CV guide and still adding that to them. And then I go to bed at night with my conscience clear that I've done something to someone that day.
Do you have a network within your candidate base? And by that, I don't mean a candidate pool, right? Of people that you tap into. It's a completely different thing. I mean, a collaborative network where those people are in something, however that might look, that when you put out that that information, that content, and those helpful things. They all get it, and they're working together.
Yeah, I mean, I get people messaging me that I've never heard of, saying that someone else from someone else's friend's cousin tagged them in a post about it, and I'm thinking, oh wow, I didn't realize that it would go that far, or that people actually did find this useful. And strangely, some of my biggest kind of advocates are my candidates that I haven't placed. They're the ones that usually refer me to clients, are the ones who I haven't even had a job for.
Often works that way. Strange. Yeah, no. It's strange, and I'll go back to the days when I was recruiting. It often happened, and it is quite bizarre. And I'm sure people listening to this will also have that same feeling. It'll resonate that that's happened to them too. And it is weird, but that can only happen if they know that you're doing a good job, and that good job to them means, which obviously plays into your, into the way that you do your role. It isn't just about making that placement, and subsequently they know that it isn't just about you making a fee. It's the other bits that go with it. Alex is
sorry, my internet is so shit. Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, you're right. And what I've said to a candidate today actually is, if I haven't replied to you on LinkedIn, but you've booked in like a strategy session with me, I'd rather give you like a full 45 minutes than just a quick 5-minute call to get some leads, get some names, and then you fucked off and I've never heard from you before. I'd rather actually have that time with you to help you.
Absolutely. Well, look, you seem like an incredibly sort of driven and positive person. So I'm going to change the tack slightly now. I'm going to ask you a question which I was asked the other day, and it kind of really made me think. How has the experience of 2020 left you feeling?
Oh, see, this is going to sound really bad, because 2020 has left me feeling optimistic, motivated, and happy. But I don't know that if saying that sounds bad in the context of COVID. Well, or it just makes me sound like a really shit human being by saying that.
I think without any context, it could well do. But the context of this is, though, is that when we, before we started, as said, we can't look at COVID as a silver lining, of course, but within it has come some really positives, as there should always be in any time of, that we've experienced like we did last year. There's always something that we can look at. And if you've grasped that as happiness and positivity and confidence, that's fantastic. But what is it particularly that has made you feel like
that? The truthful answer is, despite all the shit and everything that happened, it's actually just this hope of humanity kind of resurfacing. You're seeing people doing more human things, like helping people without having a reason to, and all of that just completely rose to the surface of it, and it was the driving factor for my own company. So it sounds bad, had that not happened, I don't think I would have had a kick up the arse to motivate me to go and also follow my purpose to help others. So that hope in humanity, I guess, would be the main thing that I got out of 2020.
Yeah, and it's great. And again, it's the antithesis, I suppose, to how people perceive recruiters, isn't it? Now, you would never have put humanity.
Oh God, no.
a lot of people who have experienced recruiters in the past, I don't suppose that would be in their top list of 3 things they describe a recruiter as. So tell us about Tail, and tell us what it was that drove that purpose, and what it is. I'm guessing, Taylor's to do with your storytelling, right? I may be incorrect with that, but what is it? Where was the name come from? Was it derived? And what is it you're trying to achieve through that name?
Ooh, good question. So if I'm honest, the word, the name actually came about on a Sunday at 2 p.m. when I was looking at the word talent, and I just thought, what else could it be? I knocked off N and T, and then I came out with tale, and then I thought, that is fucking brilliant. I did English literature, tale, storytelling. Everyone has their own kind of journeys and narratives, and everyone does have their own story. So I don't see anything more perfect to align recruitment with, because you're helping people on their own narrative. And then as the branding developed, I just fell more and more in love with it. I'm kind of like my own biggest advocate of my own company name.
I think you need to be, don't you?
Yeah.
If you didn't, you're constantly having that as a niggle, you'd end up changing it.
But yeah, that's what it stuck to, and we really like it. And even when we format CVs, we actually have the tale of, and then it goes into the CVs. So we've done everything around stories.
Terrific. And is that something you've done internally? Is that your creation that you've then sort of implemented, or have you used a design agency? How's that worked?
Most of it's just been me. I mean, we have someone who we did have a company who created the whole branding at the beginning. But after that, anything that's from now or PDF documents or anything else, it's just me trying to put things together, or the video editing or whatever, is me playing around with it.
Because part of your tale up until this point, Alex, which I'm very intrigued by, is the volunteer work, which you never mentioned to me. I just did my investigations, having been previously a journalist before falling into recruitment. And you do work with Macmillan, Teenager Cancer Trust, and Comic Relief. So I'm really intrigued to know how that transfers into what you do, and also whether or not it transfers back, because I agree with you 100%. Lots of people over the last 2020 probably did things that they might not ordinarily do, and it's got nothing to do with recruitment, this particular point, that has made them feel good, I'm sure, by giving back. Members only raised an awful lot of money for 3 separate charities across last year when we were asking people to donate to listen to webinars, and it's great. And I know for a fact that people in the network felt really good about doing that. But how for you does that manifest in terms of the way it transfers across your charity stuff and your volunteering and into what you do as a job?
It manifests a lot, and I think sometimes a bit too much, to the detriment of my own company. But it will never be a detriment. What I mean by that is, if I see someone who needs a job because something bad happened, they got made redundant, followed, whatever it is, I've sent them to clients before, and I said, forget the red tape, forget HR, take them as it is. You know that they're good, fuck the fee, and take them on. It's as simple as that. And I did that a couple of times. And that's when I realized that I want to do this job. Not only am I decent at it, but I know I don't care about that money enough when I see people struggling. So I have done that in the past.
The benevolence that clearly runs through you then is symptomatic of the way that you are now running your business, isn't it? And it is, again, another polar opposite to how many businesses are structured, and must, when you're looking to scale this, must really, really help, or will really, really help when you're looking to bring people on, because there is an absolute core rooted definitive purpose for what you do. And again, I don't want it to sound contrived or wanky. But really, that is it, isn't it? And people say, or used to say, someone said in an interview that I want to help people get a job as a question or an answer to a question of why do you want to do recruitment. They get shown the book, And the answer to that question was because I want to earn loads of money. Now, and it may well still be that. It may well still be that in certain sectors potentially. I don't know for certain, but it definitely isn't going to be the attraction for the majority of the 20-somethings coming through like yourself that all want to run businesses with a different mission and a different goal.
Yeah, I think if that's your only motivation, you're not going to get massively far, I don't think. I'm not going to lie, I was inspired by Mr. Simon Sinek, if you've seen it, his book, The Power of Why.
Yeah.
And he was completely right when he said that everyone knows their what and how, but no one really knows their why. And I know I'm probably going to struggle to find people who are probably more morally inclined towards recruitment rather than financially. But without sounding too airy-fairy, whatever you put out there, you kind of get back in return. It is karma. So the more positivity and good shit you can put out there, I think that always comes back to you anyway. If someone doesn't follow that mantra and they believe in just quick wins, then go to another agency, go make your quick money if that's what you want. But this is a long-term thing for me. So I need people and future employees to kind of see that this is a long-term prospect where you can do very well if you stick to your values.
Absolutely, and it's a hugely important point that you make there, Alex. Unfortunately, 2020 is going to see the demise of some really good recruitment agencies that just haven't been able to adapt or adopt the things that are needed now to push on. There are, fortunately, on the other hand, going to be some agencies that completely disappear, and they should have disappeared ages ago. But how do you see the new recruitment agency, and how do you see that looking? What kind of individual do you think might be running it, and how do you think it could be run?
Oh, I had to get my vision plan up for this because I remember looking at it for my own company. But I think everything, what you said there, it's difficult. I do understand for companies that have quite a large headcount, it's difficult for them to be agile at that point and adapt very, very quickly. To just kind of change a whole culture overnight if their culture wasn't in that direction in the first place. So for me, internally, what I would do is I would rather pay people a higher salary and make a much fairer commission structure, because they need to know that there is value in you spending an hour on the phone to a candidate and helping them. I'm not going to give you a KPI on how many candidates you're speaking to clients. I much prefer the consistency and what you're getting from those conversations. The three kind of non-negotiable characteristics would have to be creativity, stepping outside the box of this development and finding different ways that fits in with your personality. A massive willingness to help would be number two. And then finally, just sheer optimism.
Yeah, and I think those 3 points, and it answers that question, which I set out to you. What are your 3 non-negotiable characters for someone working your team, right? Which was going to be the way that we ended it, but you've segued it in already. No, it's absolutely, it's true though. But that optimism is really hard, isn't it? So how do you? And this will come on to another question. How do you keep optimistic when times are tough? And what is it that what drives you? So everybody, doesn't matter what people say in recruitment, it is ups and downs, it is a roller coaster, it is, to use my personal phrase, champagne and razor blades, right? And it really can be that. So when it is at the the tougher edge of it, what keeps you going? What drives Alex's optimism?
First of all, I just want to say I'm not a fucking bundle of joy all the time. I can be an absolute nightmare occasionally. But The optimism that I have is mainly the freedom in being able to think in different ways to get shit done. So my job is not to just sit at my computer, talk to candidates and talk to clients. I'm motivated by the fact that I can think outside the box and use my creative side to do other things. So I know that if I wake up one morning and I say, do you know what? I don't have a role. Let me just chat to some candidates, or let me chat to candidates so I know what they need help with. And that helps me with the content that I put out. So it's actually the fact that I've got multiple things that I'm handling, and I would want people working for Tail to have the same thing. Kind of in a roundabout way answers your question, but yeah.
Well, it does. But do you know what I think, if you delve into that and kind of look at it a different way, perhaps this is something that, you know, is worth somebody who is potentially banging their head against the wall at the moment we speak. And obviously, if somebody's listening to this in 2022 and not 2021, then perhaps they're looking at a different perspective. But the way that you attack that is slightly different, because what you haven't done there is you're not looking at a candidate and think, I'm going to get a lead out of you. You're not looking at a client necessarily and thinking, I'm just going to get a job out of you. So you're approaching it in a completely different way. And that instantly lessens the pressure, instantly lessens the stress. And you have a different purpose for going in and speaking with these people. So that then makes that job so much easier, doesn't it? Because at the moment, where in almost every sector, there is there's a bun fight for candidates, or there is, a bun fight for trying to get in touch with your clients. If you're going in a slightly different way, certainly if you're approaching it differently, which you obviously do, that must help the equilibrium so that you're not so up and down.
Oh my God, yes. I do not feel less on that level at all, because I do message clients if I see that they're hiring in my space. If they want to use me, great. If they don't, no harm done. I'm not going to push it, because that's not my style. That's not who I do that, because I know how shitty recruiters are in general anyway. But if I am having a frustrating day, I took a TED talk that I watched. I can't remember the name of it, but what we don't do enough of is taking a step back and educating ourselves before we go back to the problem. It's like you just said, you get told, oh, okay, you didn't pick up a client. Okay, fine. Go talk to the next client, then talk to the next client and next one. But actually, no, you're stuck in a loop. You need to go away, spend a day or two or a week, find a different strategy. Work on your strategy, not just the doing all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And taking that step back, and this is one thing, if you're looking for silver linings, I think 2020 has given us that, because you had no choice anyway, did you? It's not like you could go at 1,000,000 miles an hour, even if that is your general pace. And there's a brilliant book out there by Sophie Devonshire called It's Lead at Speed. And it's called Super Fast. It's Lead at Speed. And the premise of it is that if you're always working at the same speed, you're going to have some people that can't keep up. You have some people that that they are working even faster than you, and it doesn't take into account everything that's going around you. And part of that involves just slowing down sometimes and knowing when then to go. But I think we have, as the DNA of a recruiter, typically, I should say, is just to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. I want it done tomorrow, or now, and it's all about tomorrow's the last time I want this done by. Whereas you can just take that step back and go, right, okay, how's it look? So strategize more than just implement. But like I say, 2020 afforded that, didn't it? It allowed us that time, because even if we didn't want it, we had no choice. It was there. So it sounds as though you've got that down, right? You look at things that your strategy isn't to do that thing. It has to happen today or not. And there is a further forward, prognostication that goes around that.
Completely. And for me, it's just always been about quality. I would genuinely rather have 10 solid clients who absolutely love working with for an entire year with work. I don't need more than that, weirdly enough. Like, you actually don't. So what I've become a lot stricter with, because you always get clients that say, oh, we're looking to hire. Are you though? Is it even signed off? Do you even have the money for it? No, you fucking don't. But if they do, and you actually have that as a client, then that's all you really need. So it's just quality over quantities, standard, but works.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Alex, what makes you happy?
Do you know what? I read this question, and my answer to that is usually food makes me very happy. I'm a massive foodie, love food. But I kind of took the question on a very psychological level.
Good.
And again, it was inspired by Darren Brown, where he said that the word happy and being happy should be more of a verb. Because if you make happy as a thing that's just attainable and you get there, it's never constant, is it? Like, I'm happying right now. Literally, I'm happy in this moment right now. But I might get a shit email later on in the evening where I'm no longer going to be happy. So things that make me happy generally: good coffee, good food, good conversations, and the sun, which we don't currently fucking have.
We don't. If you could go anywhere to seek that sun, Alex, where would that be?
Mexico. Mexico.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Big fan. In fact, I got an order. One of a box pushed through my door the other day of a bottle of tequila for a margarita session. I'll have to go and get it for the name of it, which I can do. I can look at my Amazon actually. I'll find out for you and I'll tell you. Are you a big tequila fan?
I do love tequila. I got my mum recently into it, and now all she asks for is the silver Patron one. And I was like, great, you've got expensive taste. Good to know.
Yeah, no, thanks for the silver Patron. Yeah, no, silver Patron is it's great. That's you go to if you're out in a bar. Although I know you don't go out in bars as much, perhaps as I do, but that is what I would order there. My Amazon's trying to load up, so I will tell you by the end of this, I hope, what it is that I've ordered. What are you grateful for? Another philosophical question.
Short answer. I was trying to think of something more original, but I can't. It's with my family. My family is in good health. I've been lucky, very lucky, to have spent my entire time with them during lockdown. So we haven't all gone insane. I think the four of us, my brother, mum and dad, we have gone insane. We just do really stupid shit together or pranks on each other to another level. But very grateful that I have them and their support, and just, yeah, cheesy but true.
It sounds like your parents and potentially your brother could be the inspiration behind some of your videos.
Oh God, yeah. I've actually said I'm gonna make my brother my chief marketing officer at some point. He's 14 for context. But he can work TikTok, and that's enough of a pass for me. And my mum just constantly gives me ideas. She's like a stereotypical Romanian mother. So she's absolutely incredible. She would be shouting at my brother whilst I'm on a podcast such as this or a Zoom call, and all you can hear is Romanian shouting outside. So yeah, a lot of content inspiration from them.
I'm going to ask you to be a soothsayer now and foresee what might happen with this Clubhouse. Now,
Ooh.
I'm going to tell you, I know it's a good one, isn't it? And it's not even a question that I sent you either, I realise that. And the only reason why it's not a question, because until the day before yesterday, I hadn't even heard of it.
You weren't on it.
I wasn't on it. I hadn't even heard of it, let alone be on it. And I got sent an invite, and I was like, what the fuck's that? And I couldn't even be bothered to pretend that I knew who it was. I couldn't even be bothered to look up what it was. So I sounded like I knew. I just went, oh, I don't know what it is. Anyway, you know, curiosity got the better of me, and now I am, and there you already are. So, you know, it's what is it, the 14th of January 2020? Where are we going to be with it? Well, first of all, explain if you can, because I tried to explain it to somebody earlier today, and I was like, I just gave up. You, as simply as you possibly can, Alex, explain what it is and where you think it's going and how beneficial it could be, if, of course, you think it could be beneficial. There we go.
Right. Clubhouse is a new social platform, and the best way to describe it is that it's a interactive podcast thing. That's what I would say. So you can go in, you can create a room, you can, you know, start a conversation, and then depending on the title, what we're conversating about, people can come in, and you can get lots of value from it, because there's, you know, expert leaders in certain industries who join these conversations, and it's your chance to get involved and ask questions to people you wouldn't normally have access to. And okay, you asked me if it's going to be beneficial. Fuck yes.
Well, I don't think you could be more pointed with that.
I even pointed at my camera.
You did. You nearly jabbed me in the eye. Why are you so adamant that this is to you the next best thing, isn't it, or the new best thing? This is it. Why?
It's great because I love communities. I love different communities, and for instance, one thing I love is 18th century literature, right? There's not a lot of nerds out there that I know who specifically love that genre and that period of literature. It fucking is on Clubhouse, though. I can go in there in a room with people from all over the world, and we can discuss our 18th century novels. At the same time, I can have one for fintechs. I can have one for financial crime compliance. I can have one for fucking food. I don't know. Whatever it is that I want. And it's this community aspect that I love. If you're asking me from a work perspective how it's beneficial, it's getting the message out there for those who need to hear it if they're struggling for jobs on another level. I could be helping out someone with their CV in the US if they're sitting in on that conversation. So that's why I think it's powerful, because it's got access to literally all over the world.
I think almost before you answered that as two separate components of it being useful for business as well. In my opinion, you'd already answered that, because I see the value of something like Clubhouse as a thing, and that's how I described it earlier as well. Is recruitment.
It is a thing.
Recruitment is evolving because people are starting to look outside of the sector. And we spoke earlier before this about silos, and the reason why I nearly left recruitment, you know, a while ago was because I was fed up of those silos, and I had a choice. In my opinion, I had a choice of either leaving it and leaving those silos to other people, or trying to break them. Now, you know, one person on a mission is not going to get very far amongst 40,000 in the UK and then some across the course of the world, right? But I can see it, and part of the reason why I'm starting to feel a lot happier about what, you know, the industry is turning into is because I can see other people trying to break that mold as well. And like I say, that's because people are looking outside of it. So anywhere where you can go, where you can absorb information from other sectors, from other people that has got nothing to do with recruitment whatsoever, as long as you've got a brain that's capable of translating that and you know, transcending it into recruitment, you're going to have a better environment, in my opinion.
Completely. And I had that feeling of, you know, creativity and coming up with new ideas only when I left my old job, because I was so institutionalized of the hours I was working, the shit that I was supposed to do and everything, that once you've got a break from all of that, all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, why did no one tell me that we could have done it this way or that way or the other? Like, and then I thought, why aren't we doing it? I don't get it. But you don't have that perspective unless you've been out of it, in my point of view.
100%. And that comes back to that taking time out, taking a step back and observing it from a completely different angle, which it's quite clear that you're doing right now. So as the time starts ticking towards the end, Alex, I'd quite like to know a couple of things. First of all, outside of recruitment, what do you do? What gets you going? Where are your passions?
I dance salsa. I am an avid salsa dancer and learning Spanish. So I've always been fascinated by that culture, Latin America. Not big, well, yeah, one of my exes was Latino, so I learned a lot of Spanish that way, but now I'm actually taking classes. And yeah, dancing, absolutely love it. It's the main thing. I think I actually put a couple of posts about dancing on LinkedIn as well. At one point though, I get very obsessed with things if I'm interested in them. And I got obsessed with cooking at one point. I'm shit at it, but I was obsessed with it, which is the worst combination, because then I started Googling like, cordon bleu, schools of cookery or whatever. So that was one of my passions, but yeah, predominantly dance.
So you had a conveyor belt of crap food coming out of your kitchen, basically.
Yes. My mother begged me to stop at one point. She was like, Alex, just please, let's call it a day. You're never going to be a chef. I'm like, all right, cheers, mother.
So, and also, where's Tail? Where's Tail going to be? So, with all this stuff that you're doing inside and outside of the sector, and all the purposeful work, led by a really good ethics and a real moral compass, which it seems that you have, which I think realistically, really is sort of underpinned by this real sense of benevolence and wanting to do right by the people that you work with, which I do think is, really, really quite, it's heartwarming. And again, I don't want to stretch the point, but it really is, because I've been in the sector long enough, Alex, to know that this is, it's becoming increasingly unique, thankfully, but the way that you do it is, I think, unique. But where with everything going on is Tail, if you could, foresee a couple of years, where do you want it to be? What will its own tail be?
Its own tail. The reason it's funny you ask me that is because I had a dream a couple of weeks ago where I was in an office and it was Friday afternoon and everyone was there working, and then all of a sudden music came on. Everyone started salsa dancing or whatever. We had like a little green room, so people, like a specific room where people can go and create their content if they want to. I want to make it into almost a creative hub for people who want to have their own business in a business. And I genuinely mean that. Like, they can be as creative as they want to be. There's no cap on creativity. So that's what I see it. And I want to get people on board who can teach me shit that I don't know, and just constantly be evolving things. I'm hoping in 5 years' time, we've completely remodeled recruitment. Ambitious, but fuck it, why not?
Yeah, but quite literally, what a dream. And that's when you're looking at something to feel optimistic about, having that is great. And I guess that you'd probably implore, I suppose, as many people as possible. And again, it alters a little bit when you're talking about a slightly larger organization which already has an infrastructure. It's very difficult to break, and it isn't impossible to change, but it might be very difficult to recondition that. But I see 2021 as being a year where many more organizations will start. They'll come through with a completely different objective and the way they do their things. And I do see more creativity coming through. Is there any tips that you would give to somebody that has been in your situation? And there will be loads, I'm sure, coming out of redundancy, coming out of furlough, deciding that the business they're in right now isn't quite right for them anymore because of less they've learned. Anything you would advise that people should be looking at as an absolute, you must do this? Or definitely don't do that.
I think you just touched on it, actually. If anyone has that little niggling feeling at the back of their head where they're thinking this isn't right, spend a lot of fucking time mapping out what that is. It's a lot of self-reflection. I had to figure out everything I was feeling in order to create what I wanted around it. So to me, it's actually the self-reflection piece that I would say, if you have that, go in on it, figure out what the hell it is, because in that you're going to find your purpose and your why. And once you find that, that is the most valuable tool that you can use to create something for yourself.
Wise words, Alex. Thank you. Well, look, the tequila, by the way, was
I love that.
Casamigos Blanco. And do you know what I did there? I tried to put on some sort of accent, and I don't even know why.
I thought it was a British accent. Did you even try?
Yeah, it was a sort of attempt at the Blanco bit.
Casamigos Blanco, I like that. Tequila also helps with self-reflection, in case anyone wants to know.
Does it really? Well, you know, I bought this for medicinal purposes. It says it is good. It said it's a good digestive.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a good digestive for itself. Do you know what I mean? So if you have a bottle of that, whether or not you need another bottle to help, you know, that's where the medicinal bit comes. Do you think?
I remember seeing something about this. Like, one way to do a COVID test is just by constantly tasting different types of alcohol and seeing if you're tasting it or not. So we're onto something here. Could save the NHS a lot of tests by doing it yourself.
Yeah, well, quite well. You know, you're not so much of a drinker, are you? You know, you're not from the old school recruiter. You're the new school. I'm seeing this a lot, actually, and it'd be interesting when, you know, we all let loose again. Just how the industry. I've got these visions of London just strewn with recruiters.
I do feel like it's going to be mayhem.
Yeah.
Just like London on fire because everyone's just getting loose after COVID. Oh God.
Yeah, hang out of alleyways and doorways of pubs, literally. It's going to be quite a thing. But do you know what? We're looking forward to it, aren't we? So, look, Alex, I think over this session, you have absolutely proven that not all recruiters are shitheads, to use your exact phrase. I'm delighted that you agreed to come on to this podcast. And I think, outside of all the other bits and pieces that we do here and all the other people that I get on, what I really wanted to evoke was that sense of how something can look different. And being at that point of difference for me is absolutely imperative. I've written an article about it for our website, short though it was, but the premise of it is that silos needed to be broken. I think it's getting somewhere. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but people like yourself, Alex, with the way that you adopt not just the purpose-driven agency that you obviously have, but the way that you are looking outside of what other people do and just really breaking that mold, I think it's extraordinary. I think a lot of people can learn a lot from you and a lot from what you do, whether irrespective of the size of organization. So that's what I hoped has been achieved, and I hope now people listen to this, go and check you out and follow what you do, because I do think it is genuinely breaking the mold. So well done on that. Thank you so much for that. That really does mean a lot. So thanks for having me on, and like you said at the beginning, letting me share my tale, so to speak. Indeed. Well, look, I'll leave it. What are you up to now? So where are we? We're 20 past 4 on a Thursday. What does that look like to Alex? So Alex has got 2 calls. One was at 4, which I'm late. Never mind. With candidates, and then I'm probably gonna go have a tequila after what you just mentioned. Oh, actually, that's fantastic. Yeah. Thursday, isn't it? Yeah. Well, if you do, share that amongst the network, and I'm sure others that aren't doing Dry January will get involved. But look, Alex, I'm going to let you crack on. It's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute
Likewise.
joy, as I knew it would be. Thank you. Look, and best of luck with Tail.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take
Alex.
care, Simon. Bye.